Imagine falling in love so completely that it burns down everything you built your life on, your marriage, your son, your place in society. And imagine that the world you live in will smile at the men who do this and destroy the woman who dares to. That's the world of Anna Karenina, one of the greatest novels ever written. Leo Tolstoy opens this book with a line almost everyone has heard, even if they've never read a page of it. Happy families are all alike, but every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. And what follows is nearly 1,000 pages, proving just how true that is. This isn't just a love story, it's a book about desire and duty, about faith and doubt, about a woman who chooses passion over propriety, and a man, in a quieter, parallel story, who chooses meaning over ambition. By the end, you'll understand why Tolstoy considered this his first true novel, why Dostoevsky called it flawless, and why, more than a century later, readers still argue about who Anna really was, a victim, a rebel, or a warning. So let's step into Imperial Russia, into ballrooms and train stations, into wheat fields and government offices, and follow two people chasing the same thing from opposite directions, a reason to feel alive. The novel opens not with Anna, but with her brother, Steva Oblonsky, a charming, easygoing Moscow official who has just been caught having an affair with the family's former governess. His wife, Dolly, is devastated. The household is in disarray. And it's this small domestic crisis that pulls Anna into the story. Anna Karenina travels from St. Petersburg to Moscow to console her sister-in-law and repair the marriage. She is beautiful, graceful, and married to Alexei Karenin, a senior government official 20 years her senior, cold, methodical, more comfortable with paperwork than with feeling. Anna has a son, Seryosha, whom she adores. On paper, her life is secure and respectable. At the Moscow train station, she meets Count Alexei Vronsky, a dashing young cavalry officer. Their meeting is brief, but something shifts, and in a moment that will echo across the novel, a railway worker is accidentally killed on the tracks just as they meet, an omen Tolstoy plants early and never lets us forget. At the same time, we meet Konstantin Levin, an awkward, sincere landowner who has come to Moscow to propose to Kitty, Dolly's younger sister. Kitty is also being courted by Vronsky, and because she's dazzled by the officer's charm, she turns Levin down. Levin retreats to his country estate, humiliated and heartbroken. Then, at a grand ball, everything changes. Kitty expects Vronsky to declare himself. Instead, he spends the evening captivated by Anna. Kitty watches her own future unravel in real time. Anna, shaken by her own feelings, flees back to St. Petersburg. Vronsky follows her. Back home, Anna tries to resist. She tells herself this is nothing, that she is simply flattered. But Vronsky pursues her relentlessly, and Anna's resistance crumbles. They become lovers. For a while, she manages to hide it, but Karenin, her husband, starts noticing the change in her, the color in her cheeks, the distraction, the evasiveness, long before he lets himself believe the truth. Anna becomes pregnant with Vronsky's child. During a horse race in front of St. Petersburg high society, Vronsky is thrown from his horse. Anna's raw reaction, her uncontrolled panic, reveals everything to everyone, including her husband, sitting right beside her. Karenin confronts her privately and asks her coldly to simply maintain appearances. He isn't asking her to stop loving Vronsky. He's asking her to keep up the performance of a respectable marriage. It's one of the most quietly devastating moments in the book, a marriage reduced to social choreography. While Anna's world is collapsing, Levin's is slowly rebuilding. Back on his estate, he throws himself into farming, into big questions about labor, land, and how a man should live.
He experiments with new agricultural methods, works alongside his peasants, and wrestles constantly with faith and purpose. Eventually, Levin and Kitty cross paths again. This time, older and humbled, they finally understand each other. Levin proposes. Kitty accepts. Their wedding and the honest, ordinary, sometimes clumsy love that follows stands in direct contrast to Anna and Vronsky's intoxicating but unstable passion. Tolstoy is building two mirror stories side by side, one about a love that integrates into life, and one about a love that consumes it.
Anna nearly dies giving birth to her and Vronsky's daughter. In a fever, believing she is dying, she begs Karenin's forgiveness, and something remarkable happens. Karenin, faced with his wife's apparent death, forgives her completely. He even forgives Vronsky. For one brief moment, grace enters the story. But Anna recovers, and once she's no longer facing death, the old feelings return. Restlessness, love for Vronsky, suffocation in her marriage. The forgiveness that felt so pure in that fevered room can't survive contact with ordinary life. Vronsky, ashamed and lost, attempts suicide but fails. Anna makes her choice. She leaves Karenin, leaves her beloved son Seryozha, and goes abroad with Vronsky. For a while in Italy, away from Russian society, they're almost happy. But it doesn't last. Vronsky grows restless without purpose. Anna, cut off from her son and increasingly isolated, becomes anxious and possessive. When they return to Russia, the full weight of the double standard becomes brutally clear. Vronsky can still move through society, attend the opera, keep his friendships. Anna cannot. She's shunned, whispered about, publicly humiliated the one time she dares to appear in public. Karenin, meanwhile, falls increasingly under the religious influence of a devout society woman, Countess Lydia Ivanovna, and refuses to grant Anna a divorce, trapping her in social limbo, unable to marry Vronsky, unable to see her son except in secret. This is where the novel turns dark and claustrophobic. Isolated from the world that once celebrated her, dependent entirely on Vronsky's love, Anna becomes consumed by jealousy and fear. She reads betrayal into her every absence. She starts using opium to sleep. The two of them move to the countryside, and even there her anxiety only deepens. Meanwhile, Levin and Kitty's story continues in parallel. Levin watches his estranged brother Nikolai die slowly of illness, and the experience leaves him terrified of death and unable to find comfort in any of the philosophies he's read. The birth of his own son only sharpens that fear. Eventually, in an ordinary conversation with a peasant named Fyodor, who talks about living simply for the soul and for God rather than for one's own belly, something clicks into place for Levin, a quiet, hard-won peace, found not through argument, but through everyday goodness. Anna's story ends where it essentially began, at a train station. Convinced that Vronsky no longer loves her, spiraling in despair, she throws herself under a train. Tolstoy writes her final moments with a terrifying, almost hypnotic clarity. Her sudden regret, her final flash of horror, and then nothing. It's one of the most famous scenes in world literature, precisely because Tolstoy refuses to romanticize it. It's not poetic, it's just tragic. Vronsky, shattered by guilt, volunteers to fight in Serbia's war against the Ottoman Empire, essentially seeking an end that will finally quiet him. His story closes not with punishment, but with a hollow, unresolved emptiness. The novel doesn't end there. Tolstoy gives us one final section focused on Levin. Devastated by grief after losing his brother and shaken by the responsibilities of new fatherhood, Levin has a quiet epiphany while talking with a peasant about how to live rightly. He realizes that meaning doesn't come from grand answers. It comes from goodness, done simply, day by day, whether or not you can fully explain why. The book that opened with a shattered family closes with Levin standing in a field, holding his newborn son, choosing to keep living, keep working, keep loving, imperfectly but honestly.
It's easy to read Anna Karenina as a 19th-century Russian melodrama and stop there. But look closer, and it's strikingly modern. Anna's story is, at its core, about what happens when a person is punished for wanting something the culture around them isn't built to allow. Swap out the ballrooms and the trains for social media and modern gossip, and the mechanics are unsettlingly familiar. Public judgment, a double standard between how men and women are treated for the same choices, and the isolating cost of stepping outside approved roles. We still watch people get destroyed by scandal while their partners walk away untouched. Levin's story speaks to something just as current, the search for meaning in a world of ambition, status, and endless self-improvement. His question, essentially, is, how do I live a good life when no one can hand me a final answer? That question hasn't aged a day. If anything, in an age of curated identities and constant comparison, it feels more urgent. And underneath both stories is a deeper warning Tolstoy keeps returning to. Love without honesty, without grounding, without something larger than the feeling itself, tends to consume the people inside it. Anna and Vronsky's love is intense, but it's built on secrecy and isolation, and it slowly starves. Levin and Kitty's love is unglamorous, but it's built on shared work, patience, and forgiveness, and it grows. That contrast is as relevant to modern relationships as it was in 1877. So what does Anna Karenina ultimately leave us with? It's not a simple moral. Tolstoy doesn't tell us Anna was purely a victim or purely to blame. He shows us a woman crushed between her own desires and a society built to punish her for having them, and right alongside her, a man who stumbles his way towards peace by choosing honesty, humility, and small daily acts of goodness over grand answers. Two people chasing the same thing, a life that feels real, and arriving in completely different places. Maybe that's the real lesson hiding inside this massive, unforgettable novel. The reason your life feels alive isn't the intensity of what you feel, it's what you build that intensity on. Anna's built hers on secrecy and isolation, and it destroyed her. Levin's built his on honesty, patience, and connection, and it saved him. That single idea, tested across 1,000 pages and nearly 150 years, is exactly why we're still talking about Anna Karenina today. And it might be worth asking yourself the same question Tolstoy leaves us with. What is your own happiness built on? If this breakdown helped you understand the book or made you want to finally read it, let me know in the comments, and subscribe for more deep dives into the classics that still have something to say about how we live now.